all of these people are masters of their own right in different aspects of the occult. We've got Patti and we've got Bishop Bryan here. And there is Bloody Mary, Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. How are we with audio? Are you guys on mic?
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Hello. I don't know if you can hear me or see me. Do turn that one back up. Maybe. I said I'm live.
Yes, you are, Richard-leal. Very nice to meet you. We've also got Richard-leal, an occultist and psychic medium. So, fantastic. Very nice to meet you all. Now, as this is the paranormal panel, it is focused around ghost adventures. The question I would like to start with for all of you, and I will bring Father up,
Okay, yeah.
up in just a moment.
Turn it up, though, so I can...
To answer the question as well. How did you all... Hello, everyone.
I can't hear you, but I'm going to take...
Can you hear us? You went dead.
I can hear you. I think Richard-leal is having some interference from the entity.
I can't hear the questions, though.
I have to get you headphones.
So I'm in my haunted
I have headphones in my room.
and voodoo temple, but you can still hear us, right?
That's because the ones that are in his house are just deciding to be a little more mysterious today.
Frankly, I feel that most of them are also sheltering in place.
I can hear you.
So they've been drinking lately. However, they were not.
Well, you know what? I don't know if it's going to echo on the
shot
phone.
Here in this room that I'm in their 2012 New Orleans episode. They already had me on a previous show from a plantation where we did a voodoo ritual to feed the spirits and call them forth, and they remembered that. And the story about my house is in America's Encyclopedia of Haunted Houses, so they came to investigate further, and then there was another time, and that's how it started.
Well, fantastic. Because we are all part of the Ghost Adventures panel, well, you are. I have only seen the show. You guys have much more credibility than me. But let's start with
Pardon? I said the fans are equally as important.
Well, I thank you for that. I started watching Ghost Adventures 2 days ago.
Well,
our episode.
Yeah, and you all
are long running out.
So let's start with Richard-leal is back.
Now I can hear you. Now I can see you.
The ghosts are being a little nicer now. Fantastic. So we can start with our first question that I'd like all of you to answer. While we are waiting for Father Sebastiaan to return, how did you all come on to Ghost Adventures?
Who's first?
The bang.
Let's start with Patti.
Did you say me? My hearing is going out too.
Yes.
Okay. My first episode was 14. They were doing the Haunted Hollywood episode. And they were shooting at the American Legion in Hollywood, right where I live, right where my whole world is. And they had heard that I had seen the ghost of Charlie Chaplin there. And so they called me in to explain it. And then everything I explained I had seen, I had no idea that was Charlie Chaplin's chair. And it just went really well. And
Could I be able to have a bottle of water?
So far in the last
Could I have a bottle of water?
To a season. It's really fun.
Thank you.
Now they bring me in for seances. They bring me in for to tell them what happened before it happened, and they keep me really hidden, so I don't know what happened except when I get what happened. But it's great. So it was just because they had heard I'd seen the ghost of Charlie Chaplin. That's how it all started for me.
Fantastic. What about you, Bishop Bryan?
Can you hear me okay? I just want to make sure. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know the whole story as to how they found me. I got called by Dave Schrader a while ago, several years ago, and he was asking if there were any cases that might be good for their Halloween special. And I couldn't find a client that was interested in going on. So, I told him I would try, but we weren't successful. And then I would say a few months after that, I received a call from production and saying that Zach Bagans had a case that he was interested in having me come on to investigate with him, which ended up being the Exorcism in Erie episode. And he called me the night of, it was Ash Wednesday. I remember that very clearly. And I flew out, and that's how it all got started. But I don't know exactly how he found me or how he knew about me. I'd imagine it was through Dave Trader.
Oh, that's really fascinating. I did watch a couple of the Exorcism episodes, and I absolutely loved them. Let's move right down to Richard, who is right below Bishop Bryan on our screen. Richard-leal.
Well, the full name is Lillard. Richard-leal is my first name. Thank you so much. Yes, I joined on Ghost Adventures because they had shot. Patti is my very good friend. The moment I met her, we were just instant friends, and they had suggested. They said, "Patti, do you know of any place that's kind of nice and higher end?" And she says, I know this guy. You might really like him at his place. You love it, and then the rest is history.
I definitely watched your Pasadena House episode. That was one of the first ones I looked up. Because when I met
Richard-leal,
I am so sorry. This is so hard for me to get. I've been doing this for, 2 days now?
It's okay. That does happen. Go on.
I'm honestly making an effort, I promise. When I met Richard-leal, we were just trying to make sure that the video stream would work on Messenger, and suddenly this fabulous man in this amazing background just pops up onto my screen, and I immediately felt regressed.
People ask me if it's a green screen, and I go, "No, I live here. This is my."
I absolutely had to see the rest of your house through the video, and I have to say it looks absolutely stunning.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, we will definitely touch on that more later, but for now, we're going to go to Bloody Mary, the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. What do you have for us, and how you joined Ghost Adventures?
Greetings. Well, for Ghost Adventures, I had done several of them, and they had seen me in many different shows about New Orleans ghosts, and about voodoo. And when in Louisiana, they wanted to know more about voodoo, so they got in touch with me. And I did an opening ritual to open the gates to increase, hopefully, spirit communication at a plantation. And then they actually came to my house, this house where we are right now, and I scared the living out of them, which is pretty funny. If you want a funny story, or you want to just how we got into it, I'm not sure how you want to go with this. But my house was in America's Encyclopedia of Haunted Houses. And there's a couple of stories here, so they came and investigated, and we did scare them. About 30 minutes, maybe 40, before they called me back. 2 of them were waiting on the porch and wouldn't come in until I walked in with them. So that was funny, amongst other things. But we did get a lot of activity, a lot of good evidence on Scream, and I told my spirits they did well and gave them extra rum that night. I feed the dead.
Well, I mean, sometimes you just have to.
Dead or hungry, dead or thirsty.
I don't know much about voodoo, I'm not going to lie, but from my understanding, you give them offerings and they do things for you. So rum seems...
Oh, no, it's not really.
But offerings are needed.
Social. It's not a, I do this, you do that. It's not.
Yeah, no, I misspoke. That is wrong. I did misspeak.
That's all right. I mean, they just, it kind of, you want to try to create it like a family, and you want it to be socialization. So when you love people, you give them things, and you share things, and you learn about each other that way. Not getting along with them, you give them things and feed them, and hopefully
They will, yeah.
Better.
It's just a way of life for me.
Well, that sounds absolutely fantastic. I first found about you, Mary, through a BuzzFeed Unsolved episode that I watched, and that was one of my absolute favorite episodes.
Yes. I was totally shocked on how popular that show was. When I met the guys, I knew nothing about the show, and they were just really laid back. And we went in and did a few things at my haunted museum. which is also now known as there was some darkness that went on in the building. There we have 13 ghosts, but that particular show focused on the two that are most known.
Okay, well, let's go into some questions from the fans. If I am correct, most of you asked your fan platforms what questions they wanted to hear. Let's start with a question for Bishop Bryan. Is your work with Ghost Adventures like a team effort? And do you get to spend any time with them outside of the case, or is your work with Ghost Adventures mostly centric?
Well, essentially, it depends on the case, really. Sometimes we do work more together on the investigation part. Sometimes they do the investigation, and through the course of that investigation, they decide that they need to call me in. And so at that point, I will sometimes come in with only one of the guys, usually it's Jay. And then I do what I need to do. But on some of the other cases, I get called in with them after just one day. They go there, they do the preliminary setup to just talk to the people, do the interviews, and find out what's going on. And at that point, if it's pretty clear that something demonic is going on, then they'll call me in from the beginning of the investigation, and then I'll go through that. And you can kind of tell which episodes show that versus then I come in at the end on the other ones where it's sort of a decision that happens after the fact. Demonic cases are never really entirely clear. There's a lot that goes on that must be identified and confirmed before we go to the length of bringing me in to do something. And there's a great deal of work that goes into making sure that that's the right decision. And so that's kind of how it works. But yeah, we work together when we need to work together. And if it turns out that they don't need me, then at that point, I don't get called. So sometimes they're like, why don't we have more Bishop Bryan episodes? Like, well, you don't really want a lot of Bishop Bryan episodes because that means there's a lot of people in trouble. But overall, I'm available. The guys know this. Whenever they need me, I will sometimes. I've flown out with the 24-hour notice before. I'll clear some time for an emergency, try to help the family, that kind of thing.
Fantastic. That sounds, like I said, my favorite episodes were the exorcism ones because I just found the subject fascinating.
Yeah,
and
it's wild.
Richard-leal's house because it is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Speaking of beautiful houses, Miss Bloody Mary, I believe you have a haunted museum.
Yes, we were both, Zach and I were in our own throes of opening our haunted museums around the same time.
So what's similar and what's different?
Well, his is huge. His is huge, and it deals with the hauntings, I suppose, all over in places that he's investigated, where I try to focus about New Orleans and Louisiana and where my bloodline has been for 300 years. So mine is about preserving the history and working with the spirits that we have in the actual place. So my collection is much smaller, but we both have haunted dolls. We both are polar opposite of look at dolls. I love haunting them. I have a doll nursery, and I bring them toys and things. Now, this is my haunted little green doll. She's here at my house, and many of the dolls at my museum were once here at my haunted house, but when I opened the museum, I brought them down there. Now, when I did the opening for Zach's museum, the opening show, I dealt with one of his dolls that I channeled. And I got, rather, whatever, sweet, innocent kind of energy. And he got, of course, evil, dark, and the devil, But I got like a little girl doing a tea set. So she really wanted a tea set. And he kind of carried on like, I'm not going to give gifts to my spirits. They're going to want stuff. And I'm like, I'm the good mother, Queen, I want to give them gifts. So I sent him a tea set, which is now in his museum. It matches the tea set that I have in my haunted museum. So there's matching tea sets in both haunted museums, and both have haunted dolls, and both have connections with Zach, and I have another. Well, charity's been that way, but mine is about more local.
Okay,
The differences.
that makes sense.
Got a lot to do,
Well, that makes a lot of sense considering that you are one of the, from what I've seen and heard, one of the biggest voodoo experts around.
I couldn't hear what that said. The biggest what?
One of the biggest experts on voodoo.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah.
Especially New Orleans voodoo. There are many different types of voodoo, and I do really focus on where my roots have been for so long. And there are different types of voodoo, just like there's different types of Christianity, but all of them have a great respect for the wisdom of the ancestors and deal with the spirit world. So that is also why ghosts, I do what I call voodoo paranormal. So it mixes old school and new school. I might cook a meal or do a dance or sing a song, as well as use equipment. So in my ghost hunting, I do my approach that I've been teaching for about, 25 years would be a voodoo paranormal.
That is actually really fascinating. I'm definitely going to come back to that in a minute.
Okay, I'll be.
Let's move over to you. While I was watching the Pasadena House episode, I did notice that you had a lot of devil and demonic imagery in your home, and many claim that that is the source of a lot of your hauntings. How would you answer that? How would you respond?
I did actually have that question placed to me, and they said, well, wouldn't you think that you would have less hauntings if you had more images of Jesus and angels and cherubs? And I said, well, in the Vatican, which is profoundly haunted, it has images of both Satan and of Jesus and the saints. And I feel like that representation amongst all sort of religions and theologies should be present in one's own home. In my home, I have images of saints and the devils, and I have Ganesh, and I have Krishna and Vishnu. And I like to, as Mary said, I like to honor different deities and different things that symbolize for me, that help me to sort of unlock pathways. Miss Patti, you were asking?
No, somebody just, Ashley said, raise your right hand and wave. So I was looking at the stream.
Oh, I can't see anything in the stream, so I don't know.
Because you're on a phone, Richard. There is, if you do need any comments, Fred, I can read them off to you. If anyone saying anything to you.
Well, I can't see anything. I can see Mary, I'm sorry, Bishop and Patti. That's all I can see.
And I can only see you.
Oh,
Yes, so you cannot see me. I am on audio only. I am that magical disembodied voice right now.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said no one can see me right now. I am the magical disembodied voice.
Oh.
So we're going to go with that. Now, speaking of a lot of different hauntings, let's go over to Patti. I'd really like to know what your scariest ghost hunter's experience was.
Okay, I've had a few really scary ones because it's so funny. In my regular practice that I've been doing my whole life, I'm like the friendly ghost girl. My seances, we're talking to grandma and doing ghost adventures at all, because those aren't interesting houses. They want the dark ones. They want the demonic ones. I think the darkest house I've been in really was my scariest moment was at the Black Dahlia murder house, with the Dr. George Hodel, who allegedly did it, but he did it. I channeled him, and usually, again, I'm channeling spirit guides and grandma, and to allow your body to channel a very misogynistic, woman-hating serial killer type doctor was very interesting. So that was. Yeah, that was really scary. Just walking in the house. I had done another TV show there. And just walking in that house, it oozes darkness, it oozes death, it oozes, and there's still some girls stuck. We actually, on camera, we crossed one girl over, that you would never see that on camera, but we did. We totally did the go to the light thing with Zach, with Aaron, with Billy, with Jay. And it was pretty amazing. the guy who owned the house, I'm like, some help here, but he didn't want to. He didn't live there anyway, just rented it out. But that was pretty dope. Also, there was one other episode, not a famous house. It was in Chatsworth, California, Freak Show Murder House. That one was really hard to deal with because I was seeing these things, kind of like what I actually saw on Zach's museum on the Halloween episode that I did with Bishop Bryan. I was seeing these black, weird creature things, and I saw them in Chatsworth too that I'd never seen before. So those were pretty much my scary moments on Ghost Adventures.
I definitely need to. I have not seen the episode with you and Bishop Bryan in Zach's museum yet, so I'm definitely going to have to check that one out. Speaking of Bishop Bryan, let's go back to him for another question. How many cases that you face are full-blown possession, like in the diabolical possession episode?
Oh, not many. That's rare. I would say that in my entire career of doing this, I've only seen a handful of genuine demonic possession that would require the solemn rite of exorcism. We don't typically see that very often. And what people do assume to be demonic possession is often either mental illness or it's some other kind of spiritual problem. And by spiritual problem, what is really important, I think, for people to understand about demonic attachment or even any kind of spirit attachment is that we can very easily create tulpas or egregores out of our own consciousness. So most of the time, what people are possessed by are their own traumas and their own fears. That's 99% of cases, actually. There's a very small percentage that are the result of something that is completely outside of themselves, something that comes from a much darker place in the cosmos that we would refer to in the Judeo-Christian tradition as demonic in the fallen angel sense. But
okay.
That's very rare. We don't really encounter that very often, fortunately. But the problem is a lot easier to resolve than a person's psychospiritual issues, because ultimately the exorcist is just a mere facilitator. I provide a little spiritual assistance, but the real work is with the patient, is with the client. And if the client is not willing to participate in the things that they need to do to get better, then there's not much you can do. It's kind of like a doctor. You have a patient that has cancer, and they're chain smoking, and you can tell them, look, you're going to die if you keep doing this. You're going to have to quit smoking. Or take someone that has liver problems and they drink like a fish, and you're saying you're going to have to quit drinking. Well, the doctor can only do so much if you're not willing to make those lifestyle changes. And most often what we see are problems in that nature. So it's really about compliance with the client, making sure that they understand how serious their spiritual issues are, or their emotional issues, because most of the time it comes back to something that's either emotional or psychological.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah.
I have a personal question for you in just a minute because it crossed my mind, but I do not want to skip our other panelists on their chance to talk and have the limelight. So let's go over to Miss Bloody Mary.
Hello.
I'm going to kind of mash up the question that I was going to previously ask you.
Okay.
What is it about voodoo that you do so well? But also, what is the difference between old school and new school voodoo?
Old school and new school voodoo. Well, how old are you talking?
Earlier you said that you mix kind of the old and the new.
How can we clear some of what's in the hallway up here for you? No, I mean, how can I help?
That's kind of
Why?
It's not a question. There isn't like this.
I must be able to do something. Have a think.
I mean, how far back are you going with something that's thousands and thousands of years old? When we don't have any true picture of what was going on 5,000, 6,000 years ago. Are you talking about in your lifetime? What do you mean by old school and new school?
Well, considering I'm probably the youngest person here, I don't think in my lifetime is going to have any kind of effect.
Call me next year and we'll see what happens after all this. The only thing that I would say to that is old school voodoo would probably have a lot more ritual than maybe we see today. There's a lot more solitary practitioner, let's say, going on. Maybe old school. And I don't even know if that's true, because it's not like everybody went and wrote on their census that they were a voodoo practitioner and how they did their styles. These were quieter religions. Now, New Orleans had open out front things that you could see, let's say, during the times of slavery. But even then, there was different types of voodoo. So old school and new school. Old school, one would think they would have done, I guess, more ritual, more dancing, more drumming, more large circles of people gathering together. A lot of that changed, let's say, after the Civil War. Things went into the closet towards the end of the 19th, turn of the 20th century, and then it came out in pieces here and pieces there. But it kind of built into New Orleans culture, because here, early on, from the beginning of our colonialization, everyone dabbled in an aspect of it. All races, also socioeconomic levels, all sexes, even though it was predominantly female who were the ones running it. However, old school and new school would certainly depend upon the person you ask that question to. I think people are more upfront about it now. You can talk to them about it, where even 20 years ago, they were a little more, hush-hush about what they practiced, not wanting people to know. It's, again, come out of the closet, and it'll probably go back into the closet and evolve another way later. So I think more people ask the question, what's the difference between voodoo and hoodoo, than they do between old school voodoo and new school voodoo. Hoodoo is just the magic part, let's say the folk magic part, getting your needs met. Voodoo's the religion where you're on a dance religion, a musical religion, trance dance possession. Not the other kind of possession, but the kind of possession like, a medium, when the spirit comes through, that you're actually inviting the spirit to come in for that time period. In that time period, they kind of use your body and drink and eat, and we are left with a mystical knowledge and able to maybe give certain properties and healings during the time that is going on. So that's the full ritual aspect of it, where the hoodoo is, I'm going to get, through this, I'm going to get a new job, and I'm going to get this man, and I'm going to, okay, voodoo's the high mass and hoodoo's the novena. The 9-day ritual that you're praying and burning a candle to get and focus on one thing to get your needs met. Yes. So those are usually the questions that people ask more about, is the voodoo and the hoodoo part. Did that make any sense?
It did. That was actually really educational. I guess I didn't really realize the vast difference between voodoo and hoodoo.
You can practice hoodoo without voodoo, but not voodoo without hoodoo. I always say that.
Fantastic.
One is part of the other. Part is not the whole.
Let's head back to Mr. Richard-leal. What is something that made you smile during the show?
Oh, there was many things, actually. I will tell you, this is one of my favorite stories, because I, like Mary, specializes in voodoo. One of my go-to entities is Papa Legba, which, of course, Mary would know a lot more about. But I was doing the preparation for the seance, and I had the tobacco, and I had the rum, and I had things, and I set the glass on the middle of the table, and the rum started vibrating in the glass as I was preparing myself for this seance. And meanwhile, they're in my parlor, and they're doing an EVP. And so when the glass starts vibrating like this, they hear an EVP that says, "Take a drink." And Zach, he goes, "What? Take a drink of what? Of blood? Of blood?" And I was sitting here going, "Not yet. Not yet. Not blood, rum, not blood."
I have a funny one too.
Zach definitely seems like an absolutely fascinating character to know. He's very, very enthusiastic and very passionate about this.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
You sound like you were going to say something else.
No, I was very interested to hear what Mary's story was, because that fascinates me.
Well, we did 3 locations when they came into the New Orleans segment. One was a bar we go to on my haunted pub tour, because I have a tour company too. And it was once owned by a madam, and it was an old whorehouse. And, Zach was very interested in that. Then the then they came here first and met me and talked about what was going on in Katrina and whatnot. And then the next day they were going to come back to do their lockdown portions. Well, coming for the lockdown portion. It was just Aaron and Nick, who had books thrown at them and stuff going on and this and that. And they didn't know why Zach didn't come. Zach decided to stay behind at the May Bailey's, which used to be the whorehouse. And I said, he was trying to get rid of you. He wanted to be there alone. He wanted some action. And I had picked on him the day before when he said where he was going and knowing what he wanted. And I told him that, goat sex was not safe sex. And we kind of joked about that. He didn't understand, and I was giving him my little motherly lecture about, like certain things have happened and I'm not going to tell you. But then on the way out, I gave him a batch of my love potion number 9. And he said, I thought you told me not to do it. I said, I know, but you're going to try anyway. So here, you don't have to do it, but you can lure him in with it. He wanted to know if the problem was, would he get a disease? And I said, no, you won't get a disease, but it's still not safe sex because they might take your energy. Here, take the love potion. See you later.
That is absolutely fascinating.
But yeah, he kind of wanted to do that one alone, and then he left the other boys here. But we had they weren't here very long. They didn't need more than that 30, 40 minutes to have all hell break loose, and it was fun.
Okay, just really fast, because I really want to know, how are we defining all hell breaking loose here?
Well, in this house, they got FUs on EVPs, which I thought was fun. They got that. They had books thrown at them. Theoretically, Aaron was afraid of me for many years after that, and even wrote about me in their books, saying how strong and powerful I am. He thought that I cursed Aaron because he had nightmares for 2 years after being here. Now, mind you, not every other episode for the 4 seasons that he never did a cleansing before, and the cumulative effect getting him in the middle of the night, going bump in the night, but the 30 minutes that he was here lying at my center post with the skull on his chest. But anyway, they were afraid. So I thought that was rather humorous. So, and I had some pots, like you had some rum that was rattling around. Well, they didn't know, but I had a little nook in here with all my spirit pots. Initiation. My pots, my husband who's gone Matthew's pots. And while they were in the very front room, they kept hearing banging. And they said, man, it's the dishes, man. They're coming from the kitchen. I'm like, I had no dishes in the damn sink. They were filthy, right? And they kept hearing all this stuff. It turned out that my spirit pots, all of them, were inside the case, shaking and rattling and basically saying, get out. And they did. And they got books thrown at him, and Nick said that he was attacked by a wild boar, which I did not know. I have a ghost dog, which I still think it's the ghost dog, but he swore it was a wild boar. And recently speaking to him, he said it was a wild boar pig man. I was like, oh, okay. So they have this changeling spirit, which could be in the family of the Lucaru. So that's all hell breaking loose, all within 35 minutes.
That's fantastic. We've been hearing so many funny stories. I think I really want to ask Patti, what is your either scariest or funniest? Because I figure you've got. Well, I lied. What are your scariest?
I think my funniest, the one just before Richard's house. It was in Scottsdale. They called me up, and again, I keep sequestered. They don't want to tell me anything because they want it real. They want it. They won't. There's an address. So they said, fly to Scottsdale and come on out. They go, usually they will send a PA to pick me up, but they're just like, oh, rent a car and come. I'm like, okay, can I have an address? I'm not that good of a psychic. I need an address. Where to go? So they gave me the address. I'm driving through Scottsdale, out into the middle of nowhere. I am off the beaten path. I am off a paved road. And I get to this house in the middle of nowhere, and there's no crew, there's no Zach. There's one little car, and there's Justin, the new kid. He's great, and I knew him from our Halloween with Bishop Bryan. And I'm like, where's everybody? Oh, they'll be here soon. He's like, but don't get out of the car. Speaking of killer pigs, he goes, don't get out of the car. He goes, no, there's hordes of killer pigs here. The javelina. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, they were here last night. We were filming. They'll eat you. I'm like, oh, I'm a pretty girl. I'm like, okay, I'll stay in the car. I'll stay in the car.
Get to hear it.
I'm like, watch out for scorpions. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, but if you glow in the dark. I'm like, I don't have a black light. I'm in a little rental car in the middle of the desert and nowhere. There's nobody here. He goes, okay. And then almost like we were like I was waiting for Candid Camera or some like punk show to come on. He goes, the wind whipped up. And he goes, oh yeah. And then there's valley fever. I'm like, what's valley fever? He goes, yeah, it's something they have in Arizona, New Mexico, and some other place that there's some spores or something in the wind, in the air, and it gets in your lungs and you die. I'm like, okay. I'm like, get me in the dang house with ghosts or demons. I am good. I do not want killer pigs, scorpions, and wind. It was hysterical. I'm like sitting shaking in my boots in like a Kia in the middle of the desert with one kid in another rental car. But then Zach got there and the whole thing was great. It was really good. And actually, that's the first time he ever actually let me clear a house on camera. So that was pretty magical because that's my thing. So, but it was hysterical because I was really waiting for like Candid Camera to be somewhere as I'm sitting there going, this is the scariest thing I've ever done. I'm in the desert.
Cheated.
There were pigs. Who would have known? Javelina.
So we have an amazing surprise for everyone. Mr. Why did I say Mr.? That is completely freaking wrong. Father Sebastiaan is back.
Yay!
So, panelists, do not go anywhere. We will be calling you back up. But for now, let's drop them back down into the waiting room and bring up myself and Father Sebastiaan.
Hey, nice to see you again.
Fantastic to have you here.
Thank you.
Just going off the top of my head, what do you think is the most difficult, either semi-possession, possession, exorcism, all-encompassing above that you've ever had to deal with?
Well, definitely actual full-on demonic possession is always the most difficult. Because that, for me, not so much for the client, because actually the client, even though they suffer a great deal, where the work of the church, the grace of the church, the rites of exorcism really have a tremendous impact. So their job in this is less on them and more on me. And so for me, it's a great deal of work, and it's a great deal of commitment that goes into it, because there's no such thing as a one and done when you're dealing with possession at that level. Typically it takes 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 or 6 or 7 exorcisms. Sometimes it can take weeks or months or even years to liberate someone entirely from an actual demonic possession. So we had one about a year ago that was very severe, and we did not realize how severe it was. And typically that's normal. During the interview process, it's not always clear. That's why you meet with the client several times, and you typically invite them to church so that they can engage the sacraments and you can see how they react during certain things and different prayers. But this one, she was troubled, but I wasn't convinced there was anything demonic going on outside of the things that her family was reporting regarding her. But we weren't seeing it. And so I said, you know what? What we typically do in these cases is we do a sacrament called the sacrament of unction. It's more commonly referred to as the sacrament of the sick day. And it's basically a holy anointing with oil, a special oil that's consecrated at the Chrism Mass on Holy Thursday every year. And I opened up the vial and was ready to anoint her. And she started moving her chair back and became as rigid and stiff as a board. And then really started screaming bloody murder. I mean, she was just she changed instantaneously as soon as that vial of oil was open.
It can be that violent.
What's that?
It can be that violent to the change, that instantaneous.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's like something like a switch snaps and flips. And they are completely a different person. So I went ahead and continued on with the anointing, and then she just collapsed on the ground, reacting very violently. She went into seizures. So it's really important to have people there that have some medical knowledge, because it can be dangerous for them during these types of events. And it was at that point where we decided the only way we were going to be able to stop this was to use exorcism, because the unction was just not enough at that point. Typically, unction is more than enough. I've been able to solve most problems just by offering the sacrament of unction, but this was that severe. This was true possession. And during the course of that exorcism, her heart rate, even though she was screaming and was in all sorts of convulsions, did not get above normal range. Not once. We were monitoring her. I had a paramedic there that was monitoring her heart rate through the whole thing. But during the exorcism, the battle between the entity that was and myself became so severe that the cross that we were using became very hot, to the point that there was energy emanating off of it. And then at that time, it blew out the power to the entire block.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and flickered 3 times too. And for those people that are into paranormal, they know that that is one of the signs of the mocking of the Trinity and that type of thing. And that really does happen. So this was something that transpired, and something that happened that night. And we were eventually able to liberate her from that particular one, but we did not know that there were 7 other entities that were also inside of her.
7.
Yeah, 7.
Wow.
7.
That is a lot.
It took a separate exorcism to get each one, and eventually we never actually finished, because she went back to her home country, because there were some financial issues, and there was something with her visa. I can't remember what it was. Or she was an American citizen, but she had some kind of problem with, maybe it was a visa. But she went back, and then all hell broke loose, and she wasn't able to get out of the country. So we haven't seen her in a long time, unfortunately. I don't know what happened, but hopefully she got help out there to finish
really
the job.
hope she's okay. I do have requests in my comments, so I would like to bring back up Bloody Mary, if that is possible. And if at all possible, could I also get Father Sebastiaan and Miss Patti Negri?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hello. I am so glad to see you here. I'm so glad the spirits have finally stopped messing with you.
Yes, the spirits were very, very difficult tonight.
It's because you
Hi,
mentioned
Patti.
the Bela Lugosi mirror in the Halloween 2017 episode.
I guess so. It's just interesting seeing everything on screen. I've finally got my internet alive here in the desert.
So, Father Sebastiaan, I'm just going to ask you a quick couple questions, and then I will drop out and let you talk to these lovely ladies. First of all, when you went on the Ghostbusters Halloween special, like I mentioned before, when you messed with Bela Lugosi's mirror, what did you see in the mirror that was so powerful?
One of the things that Zach likes to do is he likes to get very cursed objects that have stories about them, and then investigate the objects. And like a wet market in China, the chemicals kind of jump around, and the energies mix with other energies of other haunted things. And I think it amplified the mirror. And Black Mirror is a portal to the spirit world. And sometimes things get stuck in that portal. Like something in a doorway, or a troll under a tunnel, a troll under a bridge, or a spirit that gets stuck between worlds. And I think there was something very nasty in there, and I cleaned it out, but it jumped. And I really wanted to mess. What's that?
I saw in the video you turned to Isabella, wasn't her name?
Mm-hmm.
And you almost looked your head did not move at all. You just turned to Isabella and then turned back to the mirror.
It wasn't me in control of my body. I felt a lot of it was the second time I've been possessed in an uncontrolled ritual.
Do you have any lasting effects from that?
What's that?
Do you have any lasting effects from that?
No, not at all. But it was definitely like I was the passenger in my body for a few seconds.
It sounds absolutely
terrifying. Men are not designed to be possessed. Women are designed to have two spirits in them at the same time, hence they can have babies. And the physical male body, in my opinion, is not designed to contain or be as accommodating for having two entities in it at the same time. So that's why men short.
That makes sense.
I hope that makes. Yes, women are designed to summon a spirit on the 40th day into the womb and have that child in there. So men are actually more at a disadvantage of being possessed because they don't have the energy frequencies for it, from my experience and my research.
Well, a trans medium.
So I lost a lot of control, but I managed to push it out, and then that worked very well for me.
You got to be held by Zach as you regained consciousness.
Yes, I woke up in Zach's arms to the dismay of many ladies who consider him their soulmates.
That still makes me giggle when you put it like that. I'm going to hand this over to Father Sebastiaan and let him. I believe he has a few questions prepared for these lovely ladies down below.
Oh, no, by all means, you take over. I don't want to step on your toes.
Oh, no.
Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt.
There was an episode where I believe all three of you were working together at the Sex Museum.
Same episode.
Patti, I know you weren't unaware that anyone else was in the building at first until you met Lady Snake.
Yeah, what it was Zach brought me into the museum. I'd been there before because he was going to blindfold me and everything, but I've been here before. I've seen it because I had done a haunted doll seance. So he kind of brought me in and kind of locked me in the little gypsy cabin, and he just said, "Tell me what's going on here." I didn't know who was there or what was there, so I was literally seeing a lady and a doll going, "It's a little girl, it's a woman, it's a little girl, it's a woman, it's a little girl, it's a woman." Then I was seeing somebody laying on the floor. I was seeing a mirror. I had no idea what I was just kind of stream of consciousness talking. Blah, 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 blah. Made no sense to me.
And for those who haven't seen the episode, those two things were Bloody Mary channeling one of the haunted dolls.
Yeah, that was Bloody Mary with the doll and this little possessed doll, and she was a little girl. It was her, and I was just kind of streaming. The person with the mirror and the person on the floor was both Sebastiaan. And then he dragged me off into like Ed Gein's cauldron with Lady Snake, a darker witch from England. And I had no idea that was Ed Gein, the serial killer that like Chainsaw Massacre and Silence of the Lambs was all patterned after. I had no idea that was his cauldron they used to cook people until I saw it on TV a month or two later. He just really keeps you in the dark. But it was so funny because I didn't know who was there, and I got to meet them afterwards. And I had already met Mary a few times. I'd taken classes with her when she was in LA. I knew and loved Mary already, but that's where I met Sebastiaan for the first time. And we became like besties. It was great.
That's the first meeting. Okay.
Yep. In the Zach's Haunted Museum. Yeah.
I just had a question. It just kind of pooped out of my brain. Yes. When we were talking to Lady Snake, I know this sounds weird considering I'm talking about a TV show that I was watching on, but I could almost feel the tension between you two, and I thought you wanted to murder each other.
Yeah, well, see, what it was, I did not know who she was. And I walked in this room, and here's this very unassuming little English woman, this little tiny English woman in a cloak, looked like, just like her little friendly neighbor next door. And she did want to kill me. But it wasn't really her because she was bringing up the spirit of this like most notorious serial killer who cooked and ate people, and she had his shovel in her hand, and she was doing some really pretty dark stuff, and that's why she was being completely influenced by. It wasn't her. Just like Sebastiaan wasn't Sebastiaan when he was taken over. It wasn't her, but all I just knew was there's this cute little lady who wanted to beat the shit out of me. And it's like, okay, and Zach's like, okay, go home. You got it. Leave the room. Let's leave the room.
Let's not die today.
No.
Have you?
He always wants you to get
Just right there.
Yeah.
So like I said earlier, this is a Ghost Adventures panel, but this is also kind of about, the three of you and your lives. What stories do you have that you think kind of led up to either meeting Zach or becoming experts in your fields that led you to being on Ghost Adventures?
Me or her?
you. Start with you. Oh.
Okay, because I can't hear her. I can only hear you.
We are going to do this really fast, and I'm going to bring Bishop Bryan and Richard-leal up because we are in our last 4 minutes. Time flies.
I've been dealing with ghosts and being on these shows a lot before Ghost Adventures came on. So I guess I had already been on 20 different shows about New Orleans ghosts, and maybe they saw me and I saw them, and it just seemed to call each other up. But we all do all these things. I mean, I got part of that Lugosi ghost off of you when you got hit by spirit, because I was there and pulling, helped with a little mini exorcism off of Father Sebastiaan. I do exorcisms on other places, and I do that voodoo that you do so well as the TV shows. The spirits are all around us, and we all end up meeting up with each other, the dead and the living and the dead.
What about you, Patti?
Again, I thought everybody saw ghosts and spirits since I was 3 or 4 years old. I literally did my first seance at 7 in my little suburban hallway, close it up. And like what Mary is in New Orleans, she is the go-to kind of person. They want seance, they want TV. I'm kind of that in Hollywood, in Los Angeles. So I've done dozens and dozens, from, Bad Girls Club to Nicole Richie to Flipping Out to every other silly, good, bad, and indifferent reality show done. So it's what I do.
Can we go ahead, drop me down to audio, and bring the boys back up on screen?
I love you, Mary.
We'll disembodied voice again. Take a practice on it. Hello, everyone. So like I said, we are in our last couple minutes here. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating. I didn't want to briefly Richard, what do you think is the most...
Richard-leal.
Richard-leal, I am so sorry. I promise I am trying. But Richard-leal, what do you think is the most memorable thing that happened in the house?
Papa leg butt.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. I couldn't quite hear if you said anything there.
What was the most memorable thing that's happened in your house?
The most memorable thing that's happened in my house? Well, I live in a haunted house. I'm a haunted person. So for me, I go, what's most memorable? I can't say because I have a mixed audience and I'm a person.
Fair.
Me?
So yeah, I mean, as far as ghost goes, the visitation with the old lady, the original owner who walks through, lots of things that I see, shadows and spheres, and knocks on the door, knocks on the wall. The doors will open up and close. I mean, there's a lot of things. I don't know one particular thing.
Well then, as I said, we are in our last 60 seconds here, so is there anything that you four amazing campers and amazing cult experts want to say to our viewers and to our screen?
First of all, thank you all
yes,
so much for joining
cleanse
us.
the spirits as
You were
well
kind
as
of breaking up
yourself,
there, couldn't hear you, but thank you so much for
remember
joining us.
that all of us,
Make
like
certain you
Pam,
donate to
are
the
here for
COVID-19
you to help
relief
you
fund
with your
down below.
spirit
I
needs,
appreciate
readings,
Bishop. I appreciate
voodoo or
Patti. I
hoodoo.
appreciate
So
Mary.
get in touch
Father
with
Sebastiaan.
any
I
of us if
appreciate
you
you
need help.
also,
We're
my
there
darling.
and
Thank
keep
you all
watching
so
your
very
Ghost
much.
Adventures.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And like Richard-leal did say, please donate to the COVID-19 relief fund put on for the Center for Disease Philanthropy. You can pop that link up on the screen. That would be amazing. Looks like they're getting that up right now. Bryan, Patti, do you have anything you want to say specifically?
Go ahead, Patti.
No, just like us, follow us, social media. We're all out there very publicly, all of us. You can see us here. I have a new podcast called The Witching Hour on Dash Radio. Richard's one of my guests. Mary's going to be one of my guests. Bryan just shot with me, so it's really fun. So follow us, like us.
I will
check us out. It's Paranormal Paramedics on Facebook. Patti and I work together with Darren Evans and Sister Mary Jones. So hopefully you'll be seeing more of us in the future.
Fantastic. And I believe, Richard-leal, you have a YouTube?
I do have YouTube. You can look for me, The Gentleman Psychic. You can look it on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I'm everywhere. The Gentleman Psychic.
Fantastic. I will have the CyberCon team post links to all these amazing people's social media and all of their different media influences. I believe that Miss Bloody Mary post go up to her personal blog and her shop earlier, so go support her and her haunted museum. Have a fantastic night, everyone. Thank you so much to our Paranormal Ghost Adventures panelists.
Thank you.
I am going to hand this over to our wonderful HWWSP as soon as someone tells me what's going on, because it's the end of the stream and I no longer have a plan. So, most fabulous that I know, right in the middle there.
Yeah, this is kind of fun, actually.
This is kind of fun.
I mean, to be fair, you can do this in your free time too. Just talk about different stories. I'm sure that there's no shortage of questions.